Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
I'm Tim Stanovic along with Carol Master. Let's take a look at some stocks on the move this week. We're joined by Bloomberg News equities reporter Jordan Fitzgerald. What'd you choose?
I brought a bit more of an interesting mix this week than just talking about SanDisk over and over and over.
That was last week.
That was last week. Feels like it's every week.
It does.
But I thought Moderna would be an interesting one to talk about today. Healthcare stocks did underperform today, but Moderna had this rip of a week, up 22% week over week. That's the best week since May 2024. And there are kind of multiple reasons why this is in play. Today, Arbutus Biopharma lost a patent appeal that would have boosted its case against Moderna. Vaccine makers rose earlier this week as doctors reaffirmed their dedication to vaccine recommendations in the face of RFK Jr.'s MAHA endeavor. And earlier this week, Moderna forecast full year revenue that came in line with estimates. So there's some good things going on there.
And it's been having a tough time.
It's been having a tough time. And if you look at it on a technical basis, if you ask some technicians, Moderna's in this rounding bottom pattern that could end up fairly bullish, but also one you maybe don't want to put all your bets on because it really isn't doing as well as it was a couple years ago at the height of the
But if you were
pandemic.
bullish this week on the name, number one gainer in the S&P 500, you did okay.
We spoke to one of the co-founders of Moderna earlier this week, Nubar Afeyan. You were out.
I was out.
This was Tuesday. You can check out that interview on our podcast feed.
All right, where shall we go next?
I think Constellation Energy we can't ignore today. Constellation Energy down more than 10% this week. That's the worst week since April when Liberation Day was really roiling the market. And it's all part of this energy power news that we've been grappling with. Trump is trying to address how data centers are really putting costs on consumers. And when consumers aren't paying, companies make less money. And so these utility companies, as Trump is pushing this emergency power auction, are dropping as investors are forecasting that maybe, Constellation's not going to make as much money as it would have without this.
It makes me want to, and let me just see, do a little technical function like an RSI on it, and it's definitely moving towards being oversold. And just a technical thing, but we've talked about the fundamental story behind it.
So Carol
today.
made the point on our program on Friday that when we did see a lot of the declines, that the infrastructure investments that would lead to more power supply available, which would then lead to lower prices, is so many years away that you were a little struck by
that's a big
the
drop that these
reflexivity
names
of
saw.
this move.
Yeah.
And just how quick that happened.
Yeah.
It's AI linked, and I think everything we see with AI, it's more reactive than other categories are. And so you are going to get these big swings. I mean, Constellation is a stock that, in my opinion, tends to move a little bit more dramatically than some others. And so I'm not surprised that if the group is down, that Constellation is the biggest decliner.
Yeah, I think time will tell, right? If they're talking about, expanding power capacity, whether it's power plants, whether it's nuclear, all of this stuff takes time. It doesn't happen like this. It's going to take several years. And so you do wonder, are these companies really going to be hurt that much in the shorter term? And it's maybe a longer term play. We'll see what happens on Tuesday, right? Or next week.
Exactly.
When they come back in terms of trading. All right, let's go to Carmax.
Yes, I think I was poking around on the terminal earlier and I discovered something pretty interesting. So Carmax was up 8% this week, closed at the highest since September.
Big bump.
But Carmax is actually up 26% in 2026 so far. And that puts it on gains comparable with Micron and Western Digital, which are these, very sexy names that we talk about all the time because of this physical AI play. And yet Carmax is there, outperforming the S&P 500, outperforming the Mag 7, and outperforming in 2026 so far its peer company Carvana.
The moves have been crazy on this.
Yeah.
This year.
You mean the volatility?
No.
Or just how much to the upside?
I mean, Carvana is up as well.
Or are you doing Carvana?
No, Carmax this year.
Carmax. Yeah.
26%. If you bought Carmax
crazy.
On December 31st, you'd have a 26% return in just a few weeks. And, the used car sector is seeing some strength. I mean, both Carvana and Carmax saw a big dip in November, and so traders have been buying that dip. And some preliminary data show that used car sales could be up year over year. But it's interesting to see Carmax so far outperform Carvana on that metric too.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.